Our next story is inspired by a social media trend, how it started and how it's going. I'm sure you've seen memes and stories on these lines. Tonight, we'll tell you the story of India's diplomacy, how it started and how it's going. When India became independent, it had neither a strong military nor a robust economy. But we had our civilizational wealth and values. And on the strength of these, we made partners and friends. Today, 7 decades after independence, in a period that's been called the Amrit Kal, we are seeing the golden moment of Indian diplomacy. It presents both a challenge and an opportunity. Top leaders from 40 countries are in India as we speak. And tonight, I'll focus on 3 of them. The foreign ministers of Russia, China and America. 3 world powers, enemies and frenemies, coming together in India. Let's start with China, India's immediate neighbor and perpetual problem. India was among the first countries to recognize China. Nehru visited China twice before India's independence. Under him, Delhi supported Beijing's bid for permanent membership at the United Nations Security Council. China repaid this with hostility and war. Throughout their history, India and China have never been strategic partners. They have partnered with Moscow and Washington at different periods in time, but never with each other. They share a border which is disputed, a power asymmetry that complicates their relationship, and a perception of each other that does not really lend to trust. India sees China as unreliable. China has long held a racist view of India. They called India the yellow sick man at one point. Now add Pakistan to the mix, and it becomes an almost irreconcilable equation. Yet India is welcoming the Chinese foreign minister and holding talks in the spirit of diplomacy. Because often, making a conversation takes more courage than fighting a war. Then we come to America, a country that began the relationship with India on a note of distrust. India was not a camp follower in the Cold War, and the US could not stomach it. When India fought Pakistan to liberate Bangladesh in 1971, US President Nixon urged China to quote-unquote scare those goddamn Indians to death. That's what he said. They sent their 7th Fleet, led by an aircraft carrier, to the Bay of Bengal to threaten India. Washington punished India for its independent foreign policy. It cancelled World Bank loans. It blocked the transfer of military spare parts. It sanctioned India's space program. For the longest time, America gave a clean chit to Pakistan's nuclear program, but imposed sanctions on India. It tried to force unequal treaties like the NPT on India. And it kept arming Pakistan to keep India in check. It was a deeply flawed policy that Washington is still in the process of fixing. But today, America calls India a strategic partner. The 2 sides have come a long way. Yes, global developments have played a role, but these images are the fruits of persistent Indian diplomacy. Third on our list is Russia, an old and trusted partner of India, albeit with challenges of its own. When the UK, the US and China backed Pakistan in 1971, Moscow stood up for India. It sent cruisers and destroyers and nuclear submarines. When the Soviet Union entered Afghanistan in 1979, India did not condemn it. But New Delhi told Moscow it doesn't appreciate the intervention. When the world refused to share rocket technology with India, the Soviets stepped up. When the West tried to meddle in Kashmir, Moscow backed India. And now when Russia is being treated as a pariah, India is buying oil from it, and India is hosting its foreign minister along with other world leaders. And this is being done despite immense pressure from India's other partners. This, we say, is the triumph of diplomacy. To have under the same roof leaders of countries that are at war with each other, this in itself is an achievement. Beyond the headlines, can India hammer a consensus? Can it really take the world closer to peace? It is in the best place to try, we say. And consensus or not, this congregation is an achievement in itself.